Next on the news, new tent shelters on Randalls Island are now open for migrants as tightened immigration policies keep Venezuelans from getting any closer to the U.S. border. Also, President Biden announces a new three-step plan to reduce those sky-high gas prices. And
for me, it's a great spiritual experience, but it's also a great honor.
It's a pilgrimage many Catholics take. We'll speak with a Marine colonel about how members of the military are now journeying to Lourdes. Plus, no man left behind, how a cross-country runner jumped in to help his teammate. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. It's a blessing for the migrants as New York City opens up new tent shelters for them on Randalls Island. Many of those migrants who have made the dangerous journey to New York came from Venezuela. But now, because of the Biden administration's use of Title 42 and other immigration policy changes, the migrants are in limbo, and they're not even close to the U.S. after giving up everything they had.
Alahaides Moray says she's running out of options. When she migrated from Venezuela to Colombia 4 years ago, she thought she could find a new life here. And for a while, it seemed to work. But now, prices keep rising for this mother of three. And Moray says she had to take her children out of school last month because she could no longer afford their meals. Like tens of thousands of Venezuelan migrants this summer, she decided she would try to reach the United States and started planning a journey that would have taken her from Colombia to Panama, Central America, Mexico, up to the U.S. southern border. Her children made drawings for their grandmother in preparation for the upcoming departure. They were due to travel this week, but a new policy from the Biden administration halted their plan. Last Wednesday, the White House launched a new plan to welcome some Venezuelans who fly into the United States with the help of a sponsor and officially turn away those who attempt to enter without one. While up to 24,000 will be allowed to resettle in the U.S. if they qualify for temporary protected status, anyone entering the country without authorization will be eligible for deportation. In this Twitter video from the Colombian border, U.S. Ambassador James Story warns Venezuelan migrants not to travel on their own and to follow the protocols to obtain the protected status. But Moray says she could never afford the paperwork and air ticket to relocate from Colombia to the U.S. We can't go back to Venezuela because there's nothing for us there, she says, no jobs. We don't even have a home there anymore. But Colombia is more expensive every day, and now we don't know what to do. It's a familiar story in 2022. The world's poorest priced out by a global cost of living crisis that includes soaring food prices. At this aid clinic in central Bogota, most of these migrants share the same sense of helplessness and want to go up north.
There's a major sense of urgency. People need money tomorrow to put food on the table for their families tomorrow. They need to pay their electricity bills tomorrow. They need to have a place to stay tomorrow night for their families. And again, with the rising prices, people are not able to make it work.
Moray's situation is far from unique, with inflation still on the rise in Colombia. Experts believe the new U.S. policy at the southern border may reduce the flow of migrants, but only for a limited amount of time. Here in New York City, tent shelters for migrants officially opened on Randalls Island on Wednesday. They have more than 1,000 cots, but only about 500 adult migrant men will be housed there to start. There's a dining hall for hot meals, as well as a laundry service, big screen TVs, and games. There's also phones capable of international calls, so the migrants can call their families. It's a much more heartbreaking sight in Texas. The Maverick County Sheriff says the bodies of migrants who died crossing the border are being stored in a refrigerated container near the Rio Grande. Sheriff Tom Schmerber says the local funeral director can't take any more. Schmerber says he's working with Mexican and Honduran authorities to identify the 5 bodies and return them to their loved ones. President Biden announced a proposal on Wednesday to ease the pain at the pump. It involves the release of 15 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. As Isabel Rosales reports, the months-long plan is meant to lower soaring gas prices and stabilize global markets.
President Joe Biden announcing new steps in his administration's ongoing plan to balance the volatile global oil market amid the raging war in Ukraine, while looking to ease soaring gas prices at home.
Gas prices hit almost every family in this country, and they squeeze their family budgets.
The administration hopes the release of an additional 15 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve will be enough to dampen the high prices, but is leaving the door open to releasing an additional supply if necessary.
We're calling it a ready and release plan. This allows us to move quickly to prevent oil price spikes and respond to international events.
Wednesday's announcement also detailed plans to replenish the nation's emergency reserve when prices fall to $70 per barrel, which is now at a 40-year low.
That means oil companies can invest to ramp up production now. With confidence, they'll be able to sell their oil to us at that price in the future.
And put pressure on oil companies to cut costs to consumers.
Bring down the price you charge at the pump to reflect what you pay for the product.
While these moves will take some time to be implemented, AAA says drivers are making adjustments.
Instead of going to the grocery store and maybe going to pick up the kids, you're doing everything at once to try to save on the gas you have.
But will likely be undeterred from making those upcoming holiday road trips.
The desire to get back out there is definitely strong.
Ivan Rodriguez, Currents News.
To get a better understanding of the pain drivers are feeling at the pump, let's take a look at the average gas price in New York City. According to GasBuddy.com, drivers in the Big Apple are shelling out an average of $3.63 per gallon. That's less than the national average of $3.85 at the pump. It's also a slight increase for New York City drivers, who at the beginning of this month saw the lowest price since the war in Ukraine began. That was at $3.48 per gallon. Election Day is still weeks away, but there are already long lines for voting in some states.
It's very encouraging that people are taking the opportunity to vote.
There's record early voting in Georgia, where more than 131,000 ballots were cast on Monday alone. In Michigan, early voting is also underway, and abortion is on the ballot there. Michigan wants to enshrine the protection of abortion rights into the state constitution. Here are some voting deadlines in New York. You have until Monday, October 24th to request an absentee ballot. Early voting is available from Saturday, October 29th through Sunday, November 6th. And of course, Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. If you're looking for more information about voting in New York City, just log on to voting.nyc. President Biden is urging Americans to go out and vote Democrat in the midterm elections, all in a bid to codify Roe v. Wade. The president says if more Democrats are elected to the House and Senate, he will send a bill to Congress calling for federal protection of abortion rights. But Biden's promise to prioritize abortion in the new legislative term is seen as a sign that he's exhausting executive steps to protect those rights. The Diocese of Brooklyn supported Catholic education Tuesday night with their annual Futures in Education Scholarship Dinner. And it was a successful night. Before plates even hit the table, the organization had hit half of its goal. Futures in Education helps to pay the tuition for some 3,000 students across Brooklyn and Queens. Patrons were urged to either pull out their checkbooks and donate directly, or they could win some fun prizes in a silent auction. But Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello, the Vicar for Development, says the night is about more than just money.
Tonight's a wonderful night because people want to come together again. And I have to say that this event is probably the highlight of so many people's lives. They come here and they say, wow, this is the best event ever. We have so much fun, and yet we're doing good.
Futures was able to beat their 2021 total of $2.1 million. For more information on Futures in Education, including how to donate or even apply for a scholarship for a child, just go to futuresineducation.org. The tablet is also helping students, specifically high school juniors and seniors. In this week's paper is a special college section. It tells you all about some of the major Catholic colleges and universities in New York State, from their enrollment numbers to their educational programs, and of course, info on open houses and how to apply. Also in the paper, a show of deep faith. The Adoration Chapel at Corpus Christi Church in Woodside is quickly turning into a place of deep spiritual importance for parishioners. One woman even says she's experienced 2 big miracles after coming to pray there every single day for years. The tablet newspaper spoke to her, and her story is one you won't want to miss. So to read all these stories and more, just pick up a copy of the paper at your local church. You can also get the paper sent straight to you by subscribing at thetablet.org. Over the weekend, there was a big push for another pro-life issue, the end of preventable stillbirths.
For now and for always, I want to remember my baby as that vibrant, active little girl.
23,000 grieving parents pushing empty strollers past the steps of Congress, representing the 23,000 babies born still every year in the U.S. Among them was an employee of DeSales Media, Christian Ortiz, who spoke on behalf of grieving fathers. He lost his daughter in December of last year. Ahead of the march, I spoke to Christian about her.
I loved her very much. And she was taken away from me in a way that was unfair. And I grieve every day for Valentina, and I love her every day. And this is just a way for me to, I have, you know, her Bobo here, her pacifier. This is just a way for me to honor her and pay homage. I've also run marathons in her name, and I've done a lot of things to be a good parent, you know, and it's difficult to understand what parenthood looks like after your child has passed, but it does exist.
Almost half of stillbirths after 37 weeks are preventable. There's a lot more news headed your way. Members of the military taking a spiritual journey like no other. How some can go to Lourdes for free. Plus, Pope Francis headed to a birthday party in northern Italy, who the Holy Father will be celebrating, and why the entire diocese is excited for his visit. And he was about to cross the finish line, but turned back. Later in the newscast, a great example of sportsmanship.
Everyone that comes to Lourdes feels a sense of spiritual healing.
It is the most visited pilgrimage site in the Christian world. Lourdes welcomes more than 6 million pilgrims annually to venerate the site of the Marian apparitions in 1858. And each year, that site welcomes military members from more than 40 countries for the International Military Pilgrimage. U.S. service members, active, retired, or honorably discharged, can apply for an all-expenses-paid trip through the Knights of Columbus Charities. Colonel Chuck Galena from the United States Marine Corps joins us now to tell us more. Colonel, nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So, Colonel, first explain this pilgrimage. You know, why is visiting this Marian shrine so important to active military and veterans?
In war, you may have known that not everyone that comes back from war is wounded. There are no unwounded soldiers in war. Suffering from either physical, emotional, or psychological wounds, and very importantly, moral injury. Lourdes gives them a chance to lay these at the feet of the Blessed Mother in terms of their own healing, peace, reconciliation with actions they had, wounds and injuries that they may have and are suffering, and the ability then to heal from those wounds and injury in different ways, in different forms. It has always been an amazing experience for me personally to be able to bring these young men and women and their families, chaplains, and to Lourdes for peace, healing, reconciliation.
It must be a very moving journey. In the Warriors to Lourdes documentary, a Navy chaplain from the Diocese of Brooklyn, Father Mark Bristol, talks about why he wanted to go on this spiritual journey. Let's listen.
I found out about Lourdes in the base chapel. I was hoping to find some answers into where does God want me to do after my deployment.
I also saw some companions of wounded vets talk about their experience. It must be moving for them as well, right?
It's very important. One does not heal alone. One heals with one's family and loved ones. And so it's not just an honor for us to bring the wounded, ill, and injured military personnel or active duty, non-wounded military personnel, but to bring their families, wives, children as well, and have the chaplains available to support them while we're there.
You're a decorated veteran and a Catholic, so you've talked about it's an honor to bring everyone on this pilgrimage, but what does it mean for you? What kind of experience do you have when you go?
Like all of the wounded, ill, and injured that we bring, I'm also one of the wounded, ill, and injured. All of us suffer in one form or another. So it's not only an opportunity for me to annually sort of look at my own life and my own experiences, the own nightmares and so forth that I may experience, but it's also a great honor for me to lead these people to Lourdes. I always tell people this is really my last mission on earth. I've always had the privilege of leading Marines in combat and in peacetime, and it's just a continuation of that mission.
And last May, more than 230 service members, veterans, and their family members took part in the pilgrimage. Applications are now being accepted for next May's trip. So tell us, who can apply and how are they chosen?
We receive the applications at warriorstolourdes.com, our website. What we're looking for really is, why are you there? This is a spiritual pilgrimage. What are you looking for? What do you want to get out of it? Those kind of things in their own personal statements. We also request a chaplain's endorsement on each application. Many of our younger military personnel, their families have trouble expressing those kind of feelings of understanding of spirituality and why they need to, why they feel that this would be of great benefit to them. And the chaplain's endorsements can many times fill that gap. So we look at all of those factors, and then we down select from there. Hopefully, with the help of the Holy Spirit, each year we manage to bring those who are in most need of the pilgrimage.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Colonel Chuck Galena from the United States Marine Corps, thanks for joining us and thanks for your service.
You're welcome, and thank you.
If you'd like to apply for the Warriors to Lourdes pilgrimage, just go to warriorstolourdes.com. Applications are being accepted through January 15th, 2023. Preparations are underway for a worldwide event involving the Pope and Catholic youth. The organizers of the next World Youth Day met in Rome to discuss ways to encourage participation in the first big event planned by the church since the pandemic and war in Ukraine. Some of the themes of World Youth Day include interreligious dialogue, inclusion of people with disabilities, and sustainability. To encourage sustainability, almost nothing will be printed for the event.
We are not going to have any paper, only what is absolutely necessary.
280 people from 180 countries speaking more than 50 languages attended the meeting. World Youth Day will be held in Lisbon, Portugal in August of 2023. Pope Francis is going on another trip next month to a city in the northern part of Italy, but the Holy Father will be visiting family this time. As Justin McClellan reports, the Pope will be spending some time with his cousin.
Pope Francis will travel to Asti in northern Italy to celebrate his cousin's 90th birthday. The Vatican press office announced that the Pope will have a private visit with his relatives and the next day will celebrate Mass in the diocese which his parents belonged to before migrating to Argentina in 1929. It's not the first time he will visit his Italian relatives since becoming Pope. In 2015, he celebrated Mass with family members when he visited the city of Turin, where his paternal grandfather was born in 1907 and who Pope Francis credits for instilling in him a hate for war.
L'odio e la rabbia alla guerra, io l'ho imparato del mio nonno, che aveva fatto il Piave nel 14. E lui mi ha trasmesso questa rabbia alla guerra, perché mi raccontai le sofferenze di una guerra. E questo non si impara nei libri né altri, si impara così, trasmettendola dai nonni ai nipoti. E questo è insostituibile.
According to the group of Jesuits that hosted him, the Pope would visit his family each time he came to Italy as a cardinal.
That was Justin McClellan reporting. The Diocese of Asti says it's sent many invitations to the Holy Father and has been waiting about 10 years for a visit. Still to come on Currents News, you know the saying, there's no I in team? Well, one high school cross-country runner proved it by helping a teammate cross the finish line. Plus, how a historic warship at the bottom of the North Sea is still wreaking havoc today. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Looking at a World War II shipwreck. It's sitting at the bottom of the North Sea off the coast of Belgium, and that stuff on it, it's toxic. More than 80 years later, the wreck is still leaking explosives, and those elements are permanently changing the environment around the ship, polluting the marine ecosystem. Scientists say the discovery of the pollution will help them figure out new ways to protect the North Sea's ecosystem. And finally tonight, he takes the phrase "no man left behind" very seriously. And now, a cross-country runner at an Alaska State Championship is being praised for his sportsmanship. Austin Shang explains how he helped a teammate cross the finish line.
The State Division II boys cross-country race started like any other. Athletes pushing their bodies through tough conditions in hopes of helping their team bring home a state title. But in this race, it was the last stretch when that goal changed.
The mindset our coach always gives us is that you're a sprinter now, is what she tells us. And so I'm like, okay, I have 200 meters left. Everything I have, this is it. And in my mind, I didn't even consider the possibility that I would pass. I wouldn't be able to finish.
Colton Mariner's body started to give out on him just a few meters away from the finish line.
It definitely hurt more than I have ever in a race. So it's definitely could tell, like, okay, this is terrible. And I was stumbling definitely and couldn't really see straight, but I didn't really expect to pass out.
And that's when his teammate Guillermo Daggett jumped into action.
I looked back and saw him fall. I'm like, if I cross this finish line, I can't go back and help my teammate. So I stopped right there and ran back and helped him up. I just, in the moment, I didn't have time to think about much about rules or whatever. I just helped him up, well, more dragged him across the finish line.
The moment in Mariner's mind took a lot longer.
In my mind, when it was happening, everything was going super slowly.
And once he crossed the finish line, the battle wasn't over.
They said I was unresponsive for about 2 minutes on the ground. I don't really remember a whole lot. I remember they kind of sat me down and they tried to take my heartbeat, and it stayed up about 180 for 30 minutes, they said, which I guess was not good.
Mariner is now okay, and Grace Christian would go on to win the state title by 2 points, but more importantly, a lesson was learned.
Guillermo modeled what a captain and an older teammate should act like.
That was Austin Shang reporting. Daggett said it's not how he imagined the final race in his high school cross-country career, but says he wouldn't change it because it helped strengthen the bond between the two teammates and friends. What a great story. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.